Yeah.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Going for Two. I am Kejuannh Humphreys, and today we're talking about some football. We're going to talk about them Georgia Bulldogs and what us Georgia fans, because I am a Georgia fan, what us Georgia fans should want and expect to see from the Dogs this upcoming season. I want to talk about how they can get back to being college football royalty and dominating the country in college football. So before I do that, first off, like, subscribe, do it all. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. To 1,000 subscribers. We're currently at 209. I have been inconsistent, but the grind gonna start now. Football season is here. The grind starts now. Let's go. So before we talk about what the Dogs have to do this season, we gotta talk about last season. Let's go back to last season. Now, Georgia's season ended in the quarterfinals of the college football playoff when they lost to Notre Dame pretty handily. Now, the score may not have been the worst score in the world, but the game felt like Notre Dame was in control of the game for the entire time. The entire time they had control, they had a big kickoff return to open up the half that really put the game out of reach. Georgia had nothing going at all. It was just it was not a good day for Georgia fans. It was not to mention the game ended up being postponed to a day after everything that happened prior, and they just got their butts handed to them. They were getting bullied and dominated on both ends of the field. And to be honest, what I had to realize as a Georgia fan was that last year the team was just not that good. Don't get me wrong. A Georgia team coached by Kirby Smart is going to be one of the best teams in the nation. That is something that we can count on every single year. But when I say they weren't that good, I mean they were not that good according to UGA standards. Now, granted, this is a team, 2024, this is a 2024 team that's coming off of really back-to-back national championships in 2021, 2022, and a 2023 season, but they only lost one game and somehow missed the college football playoff. But that's besides the point. 2024, Georgia had been dominant over the nation for the 3 previous years. And obviously coming into the season, we had high expectations. We had Carson Beck, who was projected to be one of the top players drafted. We had the defense, it's a Kirby Smart Georgia defense. We know the defense we're talking about. We thought it was going to be another year where Georgia gets back to dominance. Week 1, they blow out Clemson. But week 2 was where things looked kind of shaky. Week 2 is where we saw a bunch of red flags with Georgia. And to be honest, or not week 2, I'm sorry, week 3. Week 3, the road game at Kentucky was where we saw a lot of red flags for the Georgia football team. We saw that the Dogs could not control the trenches the way they have done the last half decade plus, really ever since Kirby got the job. They have not controlled the trenches on either side. Georgia could not run the ball against Kentucky. Georgia was giving up a lot of rushing yards to Kentucky as well. And they end up winning that game 13-12. And me, along with many of other Georgia fans, chalked it up to, hey, we're looking towards Bama. We got Bama in 2 weeks. We're looking towards Bama. They go against Alabama in Tuscaloosa, go down 28-7, 28-0, fight back, take the lead, and lose the game, by a touchdown. You know what I'm saying? And after that, it felt like, okay, bet. We lost to Bama, but we looked really good that second half. Now we're going to run it. And then they lose again to Ole Miss. And it's like, what in the world is happening? And then we beat Texas, beat Tennessee, and then beat Texas again in the SEC Championship. And they feel like, okay, we're still Georgia. We're still the Dogs. And then reality hit us right in the face in the form of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And they took us out. So, like I said, last year was a down year for Georgia. Let's talk about what was down for Georgia. Number 1, the running game. Georgia's running game is something that has brought them to the dance for the last, like I said, half decade plus. I'm talking going more than that. In the history of Georgia football, the running game has been what brings them to the dance. I'm talking, you got guys like Herschel Walker. Going back to modern days now, we got Noshawn Marino, Todd Gurley, Nick Chubb, Sonny Michel, DeAndre Swift. All these guys, Zamir White, all these guys that toted the rock for Georgia. Even the not so big names. You had the Dejon Edwards and Kendall Milton, the different guys that ran for Georgia during their back-to-back championship run. No matter what name was there, the Dogs were going to control the line of scrimmage, especially on the offensive end. Last year, Georgia ran for 121 yards a game, roughly around there. 121 yards a game on the ground, 15th in the SEC. They averaged barely 4 yards a carry, if 4 yards a carry at all. They could not run the ball. And that was prevalent in how our offense looked. Our offense looked very bad at times. Looked very bad. Everyone talks about Mike Bobo in the bubble screens. And don't get me wrong, the bubble screens are horrible. But the fact that Georgia could not run the ball, they could not pick up 5 or 6 yards on the 1st and 10. When they don't do that, it puts you in 3rd and long. And when 3rd and long happens, the way Carson Beck and these receivers played last year, bad things were coming. Bad things were coming. So this year, the Dogs have got to get back to their roots. They've got to dominate line of scrimmage. They have to impose their will on the ground game, because the way it's been, the ground game is what opens up the passing game. That's how it's been for Georgia. That's how Georgia got their money on the offensive end. They've got to dominate on the ground. 2023, they ran for 190 yards a game. So look at that. 2023, 190. 2024, 120. That's 70-yard difference a game. Georgia averaged 40 points a game in 2023. Last year, the offense was rather pedestrian, I would say. Yes, we would end up scoring a lot of points in these games, but it was not in the fashion that it was in 2023. And we had the same quarterback. You know, the offensive line is going to be the offensive line. Now, we did lose weapons, and I'm going to talk about that as well. But Georgia has got to get back on the ground and dominate the run game. That is a very big piece. And it's not just on the offensive end, the defensive end. Georgia, before, when Georgia was making the national championship and the SEC championship every year and stuff like that, when they went back to back, they were top 5 in rushing yards allowed, dominating the line of scrimmage. That was not the case last season. We saw a lot of teams able to run the ball on us last season, and that ultimately led to the defense struggling to get off the field at times, the defense struggling to stop guys at times. Now, granted, the defense definitely picked up their play in the second half, I will say that. They definitely picked up their play after the Alabama game, I will say. But we need to be dominant on the ground, dominant in the trenches. Number 2, the playmakers have got to be playmakers. 2023, I said we scored 40 points a game. I talked about the run game, but I cannot discount what it meant to have Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers on the team. I can't discount that, what it meant to have just those 2 guys that were playmakers. You got the ball in their hands, they were a threat to score at will. This past season, we did not have that. We did not have that. We led the nation in drops, which cannot happen. If you're going to be a team that wants to win that championship, you cannot afford to lead the nation in drops. You can't. A lot of people point the blame to Carson Beck for why the offense struggled. For one, I blame Mike Bobo, but at the same breath, did Carson Beck underperform? Yes, he did. Carson Beck, we came into the season, he was projected to be the first overall pick preseason. And he had a season where he's now still in college for a 5th season. So that shows you how that went. But Carson Beck, he needed his guys to make the plays. There were several passes. I think about Arian Smith, who's actually been playing really well for the Jets in the NFL so far in preseason and training camp. But think about the deep balls for Arian Smith and how he would just drop them. The drops from all kinds of guys, and how that makes a quarterback's job a lot tougher. The pass protection was not the best it could be last season. So if your guys aren't catching the deep balls and the pass protection is not where it needs to be, a Mike Bobo offense is not going to work. And that's not even mentioning his bubble screen fetish that he has on 3rd and long, throwing bubble screens. So the playmakers have got to be playmakers. We go out and we pick up a Zachariah Branch. We go out and pick up a Noah Thomas. And hopefully those guys help us get back to where we are. Because you think about Georgia. Georgia never really had a super duper crazy wide receiver. Now, I'm not going to disrespect George Pickens. George Pickens was crazy. AJ Green was crazy, but I'm talking about the Kirby Smart era. Georgia never had one of those Jeremiah Smith type receivers that, is one of the best in the nation. Now, George Pickens, I believe, was one of the best receivers in the nation. But What I'm saying is the passing game was not what brought us to the dance. You had a guy, you had a playmaker on the outside that when you needed to put that ball out there, you would. A.D. Mitchell. Shout out A.D. Mitchell as well. He was spectacular in the national championship years. You know what I'm saying? But the season was not predicated on how the receivers played because our run game was so good. But when the ball went in the air, those playmakers made plays. The A.D. Mitchells, the George Pickens, the Brock Bowers. Dylan Bell played, I think he played pretty good for us last season. So bringing in Zachariah Branch, bringing in Noah Thomas, bringing in other guys are going to help this offense, have to help this offense get back to where they were, to where they don't want to get in no shootout because we want to dominate on defensive end, but they got to get in the shootout, they can get the job done. Number 3, Gunnar Stockton. Gunnar Stockton, I've watched several interviews, and Gunnar Stockton sounds to be like, it seems like he has a lot more favor in the locker room with his teammates than Carson Beck did. And I think about when Carson Beck went down in the SEC championship, and something that Kirby Smart said in the postgame interview was that when Carson went down and the news came out that Gunnar would be coming out and starting the second half, like the locker room was rallied behind him and they were ready to go. And I think so much of also what happened with the Notre Dame game was that a whole system was created for Carson Beck. And when he goes down, it's not possible to make an entire system for a new quarterback in 3 weeks. But having a whole offseason, a whole training camp, a whole preseason, everything, having all that to prepare for Gunnar Stockton to lead his team, we may see this offense get back to where it is. And that's not a slight at Carson Beck. But I think about Stetson Bennett, man. Stetson Bennett was not the most talented player in the world. He didn't have the best arm in the world. He was not the biggest quarterback. He was not your prototypical quarterback. But he was a guy that got the job done. He was a guy that could snap the ball, put the ball where it needed to be. He could get out of the pocket, run around, create different opportunities, get some yards on the ground with his legs. I see the same thing in Gunnar Stockton. And I'm believing in Gunnar to get the job done this year. I'm believing in him. So I think with all 3 of those things, with getting back on dominating on the run, in the trenches, dominating on the run game, on offensive and defense, allowing your playmakers stepping up and being playmakers, and then having Gunnar Stockton having a whole year under a system that's going to be created and tailored to him now, we're going to do what it do. We're going to do what it do, man. But until next time, that's all I got for y'all, man. Until next time, going for 2. We out of here. Go Dogs. Yeah.